Alright, people, midweek report time. So, this is going to be a particularly big one. Not really in terms of length. In fact, I'm going to try and see if I can get this into a sub 20. That's the kind of goal. Because we've kind of done most of the work on Sunday for Monday's upload. Let's try and get this a sub 20. Because all that's really talking about is, well, it's mainly going to be around the Crawford Madrimov card. We will be doing a live watch along this Saturday. I don't know what time I'll start. See, the ones that happen in the States are trickier. And saying that, the kind of Riyadh season shows, you never know kind of what time they will start at, if that makes sense. You know, with Fury, it wasn't Fury, it was Fury and Ganu. I think they were saying the ring walk was going to be like 10:30 and it was nearly midnight. Again, I think the fight actually started. So they can be a little bit all over the place. I say I want to keep this under 20 minutes and already I'm talking about miscellaneous things. But anyway, we'll be doing a live watch along. We'll work out the times when it comes. Have a look there on screen. The Riyadh season show, the Riyadh card, Crawford Madrimov on the zone. You can actually get that pay-per-view by link provided in the comments, pinned in the comments section. There you go. Have a look there on screen. By the way, my thoughts on Crawford versus Madrimov, the prediction video, that's up there as well on the zone. So if you haven't watched it on the YouTube channel, you can go and watch it there. So that chuck that in there. Now, let's talk. Do you know what? Before I preview the Madrimov Crawford card, I was watching Hatman's video the other day on yesterday, on Oleksandr Usyk. Now, his manager, Krasuk, gave an interview where he was talking about 200 million for a Joshua trilogy. And Hatman was saying in that video, was he real? Was he being facetious? Team Usyk have always been easy to work with. They've never been the guys to make the outrageous demands like a certain Tyson Fury. And with Anthony Joshua, with that fight, if they had a trilogy, what negotiating power has Anthony Joshua really got on the table for a man who beat him pretty soundly twice, has been undisputed champion already, and is the public's appetite for that fight really truly there? Because when Anthony Joshua beat Francis Ngannou, a lot of people were saying, you know, this Joshua, he defeats Oleksandr Usyk. And a lot of people actually switched from Usyk versus Fury, which at the time we knew was going to be for undisputed, and that was the fight that I myself wanted desperately, to people saying, no, just do Joshua Fury. It's almost like Usyk, those two wins meant nothing. And he was an afterthought. And all the people who were yearning for undisputed, and again, it wasn't the majority, it was a minority, who were like, you know, just do Joshua Fury next. I was like, no. Are we like Oleksandr Usyk? Are we forgetting about him? Ben Davison will say, oh, me in the corner, Joshua will do this. At the end of the day, right, you go back to the Olympics in 2012 when Anthony Joshua fought Erislandy Savon. Erislandy Savon is a mover, he's a slickster, and he beat Anthony Joshua. He didn't get the nod, but for all the world, everyone knows he won that fight. And you never really saw Joshua in there with a mover, someone who's going to give you angles, someone faster. Well, he's been in there with guys faster, but with that level of skill, until he fought Oleksandr Usyk, and he was schooled twice. And you'll see it with Joshua fans, you'll see it with Fury fans. Both have a split decision loss to Oleksandr Usyk. Joshua has 2 losses to Usyk. Obviously, one was unanimous. The second one should have been unanimous, but it was split. And the Joshua fanboys will always say, oh, well, you say, you know, Oleksandr Usyk beat Joshua handily. Well, he did the first time, but the second time it was split. As if all of a sudden, because one judge, forget who it was now, I remember Rob Tebbutt for Boxing News interviewing him post-fight, and he wouldn't even comment. I mean, that's kind of, you effed up when it's like, no, just keep walking. Just don't even ask me anything. But they act as though like that makes the fight close. You know, it was a close because it was a split decision. That's what they act like, right? But they're quick to condemn Tyson Fury fans who say the same thing about their fight, about Fury's fight with Usyk. At the end of the day, there are loads of decisions in boxing that they go the way of the fighter. The right guy does win, right? But for some reason, one judge sees it bizarrely, you know, abstract to how the other two have seen it. Because I don't think you could have scored either of those fights split decision. I don't think Joshua had a prayer of a shout of winning the second fight, and I don't think Fury had a shout of winning their fight. But the records will show split decision. That doesn't mean it was a close fight. It just means one judge had an abstract view on the other judges, and he scored it that way. There were plenty of fights. Mayweather versus Canelo. Frampton. Do you remember Carl Frampton when he fought Scott Quigg? And that was Scott Quigg rallied late, but it was a fairly comfy win for Carl Frampton. One judge, Levi Martinez, I think it was, and he's known for being a bit, or he was anyway, I don't know if he still judges, was known for being a little bit as a judge. He scored that fight for Quigg. Couldn't make a prayer for him winning the fight. It's forgotten now. People won't even mention that because they're like, oh yeah, Carl Frampton won the fight. Who cares? At the end of the day, it's on the record as a split decision, but it should never have been. And there's loads of fights out there that you look at and they're like, oh, that was a split decision. Was it close? Hell no, it wasn't close. Just one judge seen it very different to the other. And, bizarrely different. Oleksandr Usyk, I think if he fought Anthony Joshua now, I would still pick him. I think right now it might be Joshua's best chance. But this isn't like, Ali Frazier, where one fighter won the first fight, the other fighter won the second fight, and now we need the road match. This isn't like, one fighter fighting a guy twice and scraping a decision both times. Scraping a decision. That sort of way. It's like people want to mention Chisora Dillian White. I know Chisora got stopped in the rematch, but he was winning that fight. At least I thought he was winning it. And then obviously there was a lot of people who felt that he won the first fight. So there's demand there for a trilogy fight because some people feel like Chisora should have a win over Dillian White. Many people feel he was on the way to winning the second fight had it not been for the point deduction making him reckless. So there you go, there's demand. Well, Oleksandr Usyk and Joshua, it's like, does anyone, I will watch it, certainly. I would give Anthony Joshua a better chance because I think Usyk is slowing down, depending on how he looks against Dubois, because I like what I'm seeing from Anthony Joshua, I certainly do. But at the end of the day, Otto Wallin, every time he stepped up to the truly elite level, the Fury and Joshua, he's been found wanting, although he did give a gun account of himself against Fury. And Francis Ngannou, a novice boxer, that's just what that is. A completely different form of combat sport. He did flatter to deceive against Tyson Fury. He can be definitely guilty of seeing that. But in reality, that's what should have happened. That's what Joshua did, what Fury really should have done. So I think the fight will be closer now. But again, if it happens, it happens. But I wouldn't be as excited as I was for the first two, put it like that. In terms of Usyk versus Fury, I did actually see that Tyson Fury uploaded a video of himself in training. Oleksandr Usyk at the same time is playing football, apparently. Oh no, I think that's an old pic that I'm seeing here on Twitter. I know he did release a video of himself, just saying, and I like the way he did it. He was like, Tyson Fury, you're my friend. Probably butchering the accent, but I did see that. So look, it's a good thing that Fury is back in training. That's the most important thing, I think, with Tyson Fury ahead of this rematch. Fury can win this rematch. He absolutely can. He is going to need to be... You see, what I don't like with Tyson Fury and why it's leading me to believe that he won't win this rematch. Now, I'd probably pick Oleksandr Usyk regardless. But if Fury is still of that mindset that it was an easy fight, he was robbed, this, that and the other, it was a sympathy vote for Oleksandr Usyk, all that nonsense, you can start training earlier and you can start working on your fitness. But at the end of the day, you were just beaten by the better man. If you're not going to improve on the mistakes you made, ain't going to be much help in there on fight night. That's what I will say to that. So that's really the Fury kind of Joshua / Usyk kind of thing out of the way. Let's have a quick talk about Madrimov. Well, actually, it won't be a quick talk because I guarantee you I will be going through this card left, right, and centre. This is an interesting one, right? So, when I look at this card, Jared Anderson versus Martin Piccoli, Andy Ruiz versus Jarrell Miller. These are two big heavyweight fights that I have a lot of interest in. I've given prediction videos. I think Anderson and Ruiz are going to win. But here's the thing. We don't know the rounds. As of right now, and it is Thursday evening, it's 8 o'clock on Thursday evening, this fight is happening Saturday night in the US, be Sunday morning over here. But the weigh-in is tomorrow, we still don't know the rounds. Now, my thinking, and again, it's just my thinking on this. It could be completely wrong. They could both be 12 rounders, right? I'm wondering, will these be on later in the card? And are they waiting to see how some of the prelims go? And maybe Dave Morrell or someone like that? Because I think some people, a complaint that I definitely notice about these Saudis, it's a complaint that fans come with, right? Is that the card can go on a little bit long. There's a lot of miscellaneous things going on in between fights, and especially from the co-main to the main. Like, you got to remember, Fury versus Ngannou. That was the first Riyadh season show that we ever did. It was the first real. Like, it wasn't the first. There's obviously been shows in Saudi Arabia prior to that, but that was kind of the first one with Turkey Al Sheikh and is it? Can't remember the name of it. Entertainment something, but we had the co-main event, which was Wardley versus David Alai, and that happened at whatever, I will say 9 o'clock. So you would think with that co-main event, and it ended early, it ended in the 7th round, you would think, okay, they're going to move on with the main event, they'll move it on a little bit quicker, and then we're good to go. We were waiting for what, over an hour? And we had so much stuff that we just did not need. And it dragged on. You had the Matchroom Queensbury 5v5 show. I think it was nearly 2 a.m. Or certainly it was definitely past 1 a.m. UK time when the whole show ended. And you were just like, what the hell? I wonder if they're going to pick the rounds based upon how the show is going. So, like, I'll give you an example. If we'll say, like, Dave Morrell, I don't expect him to, goes 12 rounds with Kalazis. If Isaac Cruz goes 12 rounds with Valenzuela, I think they say that guy's name, would they make these fights 10 and 8 rounders respectively? Or maybe just both 10 rounders? Whereas if you're talking early night for Cruz, early night for Andy Cruz, early night for Dave Morrell, would they then make them 10, 12 rounders? Could be completely wrong with that. That could be me just overanalyzing something and just thinking way too much on something. But maybe that's it. But tell you one thing. If they were, say, 8 rounders or 10 rounders, that could be interesting because Andy Ruiz versus Jarrell Miller, that's an interesting one. I'm thinking Andy Ruiz should win, but I'm not saying it with any great degree of certainty. And I've seen more pictures of him this week. Look, Andy Ruiz is never going to he's never going to win Slimmer of the Year. He might win Catfish of the Year for trying to con us into thinking that, but he ain't going to win Slimmer of the Year. And he looks bigger. He doesn't look, I've seen him worse, but he looks big. Miller is looking in slightly better shape. He definitely is. That could be interesting depending on the rounds that goes. Anderson Bacoli, yeah, how quick can Bacoli start? Can he keep a good pace? We know Anderson can. If it's over 10 rounds, if it's over 12 rounds, that's going to be the real interesting part. It really is. In terms of the rest of the card, like I said, Andy Cruz. I like watching Andy Cruz. He's a talented fighter. Love watching Pitbull. Who doesn't love watching Pitbull? Honestly, Isaac Cruz is one of the most entertaining fighters you'll see. I love watching Pitbull. I could watch him fight till the cows come home. Absolutely love him. And I like Dave Morrell as well. I love watching him as well. I think he's very talented. I think he's vicious. He's a hard punching Cuban, which is weird because he's, like I said, most Cubans, they're very much in the kind of, the boxing, Uriel Dorticos kind of broke the mold. You want to say it was kind of Ortiz and Dorticos. Luis Ortiz has had some fights that have not been great, but that's kind of been down to people like Malik Scott being very negative. But when you look at, like, Ortiz when he came up, and he was fighting on those Golden Boy shows in the HBO days, he was really entertaining, which was going against kind of what we were seeing. We were seeing Rigondeaux, we were seeing Erislandy Lara, who, since he's got older, he's got a little bit more explosive and getting more knockouts. But in his prime, Lara could be a runner, he could be boring. Who else was there? There was Aldener Solis, a heavyweight, who... That was one of the big problems with Cubans turning over at heavyweight, is that they would be, God knows, like they'd come from one fight they could be 240, the next fight they could be 280. I think Solis, when he fought Tony Tucker, I think he was like in the 270s. It was one of the last fights, and he was a talented fighter. Aldener Solis, he really was. Now he got stopped by Klitschko going around. I think he was injured. I think he suffered an injury, I should say, in that fight. But he was a talented fighter. Dave Morrell, Luis Ortiz, the likes of them, they've come, and Dorticos, Dorticos is another one. I mean, he the KO doctor, and he is just, he might not be the best, but he's been cruiserweight champion, but he's entertaining as hell to watch. At least he was Uriel Dorticos. So I like what I'm seeing from Morel. I think he's very talented. He's a vicious puncher. Very big puncher. He's going to be a problem at light heavy. Oh, I'm telling you now, he will be a problem at light heavy if he stays there. And finally, Madrimov versus Crawford. I'll tell you this, right? I was watching, my friend sent me a link to the 40 Days, the Zone documentary. And I was watching, he told me to skip to the 4-minute mark. And there's a chat with Crawford's strength and conditioning coach. And I was watching it, and I was like, he's got a very good story. He was in a very bad accident in 2021 and was able to regain mobility, and he looks fighting fit now, so fair play to him. And my friend sent me some Instagram DMs and then sends me a training program. And I was like, why is Crawford's strength and conditioning coach sending you a training program? And he turns around and he goes, yeah, I paid him for it because, I don't know, I just want to see basically what a world level boxer's strength and conditioning coach is like. I was like, okay, I can't really knock you on that one. So yeah, Crawford's strength and conditioning coach is doing a program. Well, he's already done the program for my best friend, and I think he'll be doing more for him. So I had to. I know it's a bit of a random thing, but I just had to laugh when I seen it. I was like, that's crazy. You just DM'd him on Instagram, and boom, there you go. You're working out with him. Obviously not physically in person, but over Zoom and things. I was like, there you go. What can you say? So there is that. Let's have a look-see on some of the other boxing news that we have. Canelo Alvarez and Berlanga are set to have their press conference this week. Yeah, yeah, it is what it is. I guess the Berlanga-Canelo fight, it is what it is, but it ain't great. It ain't great. It really isn't. Castro versus Prograis is reportedly postponed. That was meant to take place in Manchester August 24th. That will be rescheduled. Apparently it's an injury that's been suffered to Jack Catterall. Plan is for the fight to be rescheduled in October as the injury is not that serious. Depends on when in October. I mean, you're talking the end of August. So yeah, you could do it in October. If it's 6 weeks. And at the end of the day, Jack Catterall, Josh Taylor was meant to happen in April, was it not? Was it April? Yeah, I think it was April. It ended up happening in May because Josh Taylor got injured. So look, it happens. It happens. What else is there? It's primarily this week. It's primarily been about Israel Madrimov versus Terence Crawford. Now, I will touch on this briefly. Derek Chisora versus Dylan White, the trilogy fight. I think that now some people were saying that they were kind of like, yeah, if it happens, it happens. Listen, my preference for Chisora would be retirement. I think that that's the best thing for him. It's the best thing for his health long term. I think that he's made an absolute king's ransom from boxing. I mean, a fighter with 13 losses has made and he has made generational wealth. Yeah, he hasn't made a Saudi payday or anything like that, but this is a guy who's pay-per-viewed many shows. He's headlined some of them as well. He's fought the likes of Tyson Fury in a trilogy fight at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium for a world title. I didn't think the fight should have happened, but it did, and it made Chisora a lot of money. He's beaten Joe Joyce as the main event of the O2. If he is going to fight again, he's going to demand even more money because it's coming off the back of a good win. So this is a guy with 13 losses who still makes insane sums of money. And for me, Chisora is a dying breed of a fighter. He is a fighter. When you look at his career, I know I should be talking about Dylan White, but when you look at his career, he's been the sort of guy where he's lost, he's come back, he's maybe taken small paydays to fight lower down the card on some Eddie Hearn shows. I know he did that after he lost to Caballel. And that loss hasn't actually aged too bad, in fairness, because Chisora did a lot better than Frank Sanchez and Arslanbek Makhmudov, both of whom were more highly rated at the time than Chisora was. Chisora was seen as a bit over the hill at that point in 2017. Went the distance with him. And there's another fight, by the way. I was talking about Joshua Usyk. There's another fight. That was a fairly comprehensive win for Ajay Caballel. Now, it was competitive, but you couldn't really make an argument Chisora won it. Majority decision, there you go. But he was able to go, I think he had about 2 fights on some Matchroom shows, lower down the card on some miscellaneous Matchroom shows. Takes a risk against Carlos Takam. Risk pays off. He's back in pay-per-views. He stayed active. He went down the card. He had his fights. He took a risk. Paid off. Boom, he gets the Dylan White fight. He goes back to going down the card, takes a risk, pays off. Boom, here we go. You know, it's just there you go. And Chisora he's a dying breed of a fighter, I think. A fighter who, regardless of whether he wins or loses, he just, because people don't really talk, like, you know, you look at his career and you say, like, he's been in there with the likes of Fury, been in there with the likes of Usyk, Parker, etc. And you don't really talk about the losses. You always talk about how good the fight was, Chisora, you know, the kind of guy he is, and we won't see his kind for a while, unfortunately. I don't think we will anyway. I could be wrong. We could be going into a new generation where everyone fights everybody, but I doubt that. Although saying that, with Saudi's involvement, maybe we will. But with him, Dylan White 3, yeah, I probably would take that fight. I mean, if I'd prefer to see him retire, but I would not lie, I would watch it. And right now, I think it's the best chance for Chisora to get that win over Dylan White, to be honest with you, because at least Chisora is fighting at a decent level. At least he's active. Dylan White fought in November 2022 and then fought in a hotel in Castlebar in March, and he hasn't fought since then. So there you go. That's what Dylan White's doing. There you go. Anyway, I'll leave it there. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Hope you enjoyed it, people. Smash the like button if you could. Hit subscribe, of course, as always, if you haven't already. Peace.